Hey guys, good morning. On this Sunday morning of the Pizza Roll Diaries, this is V Man from New Budget, No Budget Production. See, that's how wonky minded we are on this Sunday morning. Man, it has been a crazy morning. Let me tell you, Ray, how are things down there? Here we had some interference down there.
Yeah, we actually it's gotten cold. It's gotten rainy, but you know what? We're inside the building, and so far so good. We had a little connectivity problem, but I think we're all right. How you
It,
been?
oh man, I needed my coffee this morning, so it's and nothing that a little bit of caffeine won't help. So man, your studio looks great there, man. And so you're at Neutral Zone Studios. Now for those that don't know, um you have a bridge, the hallway, which I know that I've run through. Wow. Oh, and that's the viewer that you have for Sulu. The huh,
Yeah,
ain't
so
that
we're a full size one-to-one um, interior of what you guys would call the Enterprise. We call it the Constitution now.
mhm.
So we have you guys can see the bridge, but we have a full corridor that leads to the transporter room and the captain's quarters and aux control and sick bay and Jeffrey's tube. And we also have just on the other side of our sets a full engineering section. And Vance has been here. He's walked the halls. We geeked him out, as Vance would probably say. Um, we are down in Kingsland, Georgia, which is about 25 minutes north of Jacksonville, Florida Airport. Um, so we do, and I'm sorry, Vance, I don't want to take over. I'm not
Oh
going
no,
to.
you're good, man.
So we do fan weekends once a month up until the summer. And we actually are doing our third day of the March one today. I'll kick off noon Eastern time. And we do 90-minute walkthroughs of the studio. The walkthroughs are led by Vic Mignogna. And if you guys are not familiar with Vic, Vic is the executive producer of Star Trek Continues. He played Captain Kirk. And it's kind of his vision that brought these sets together in Kingsland.
I was gonna say that halt the corridor. I've told people before that when the first thing they have to do when they come to your sets is walk down the corridor because you really get lost in that world that you guys have set up down there. I mean, I felt the first time when I was going down those sets, I felt like in the Sound of Music when she's just like going over and over and over through the hills, just the world could go on forever, and that's how I felt going down your corridor. It's it's an unbelievable place, an environment that you guys have there, a very open and welcoming place. It has such accurate detail, and one thing that you don't realize is how big, large scope that you have down there. Um, what's it like getting to live there like almost every day? Because I know for me, as a fan filmmaker, when I go to a set or something, the first thing, I've been so many times, I instantly just kind of tune into, okay, what do we need to fix? What do we need to do? But what's it like? Is it like having your inner child like every time you go to set, or what's it like?
That's an interesting question, Vance, because there are days that are just like that. And then there are days when you get here 5 hours late and, you've got people, impending on coming through here and you just get down to business.
Hmm.
Uh, but I will tell you that um, it never gets old.
Hmm.
Uh, that's what I would say. It just never gets old. I mean, you're walking the sets, and as Vance would probably tell you guys, it's in the same footprint as Paramount Studios in 1966. So you're kind of walking, you're ghost walking where you would have found Shatner and Nimoy and James Doohan. Um, So it's kind of surreal. I also say to people a lot, if somebody had told 12-year-old Ray Tesi that one day he'd own the Enterprise, I told them they were crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, especially with the fact that we have like modern technology and we can do, kind of like what we're doing now, which is just, bullshitting back and forth, having a good old time. We're able to have these kind of conversations and get to know yous, and people can, at home see, the things we're able to do. Like, you're sitting in the captain's chair, we're able to do fan films. We're living in a much different world than what we all grew up in. The things that we're able to do now, that at one point had was almost unbelievable. That was my experience walking onto the old Starbase Studio sets, which is where you and I had met for the first time at the first Promenadicon. Uh, yeah, and then going on to your sets, I kind of relived that, because again, going down that corridor, they made that an event, and I don't know if that was what helped build the hype, or if it was just the corridor itself that was just impressive. But when you go down that corridor, it goes on forever. You really feel like you're in the 23rd century, where you're just like, man, does this ever, like, you feel like you could, throw something and it just continues looping down. It's just such a great thing. And then you go off to the left and you go sick bay. You go off to the right, you are in the briefing room. You go a little bit further, it's Captain April's quarters. You go down to the left, it's corridor, and then you got the Jeffries too. I mean, it's just the thing where it's like, man, does this not end? Like, you feel like you could take a vacation in there and not get lost. It's such a beautiful place, Ray. Such a
Well,
beautiful place.
Vance, thank you very much for saying that. Um, we try not to give it hype, but we do want to let people understand, what they would experience when they were here, and opening the doors. And we'll talk about that a little bit too, because there's some backstories to that. But open the doors, they open onto the corridor. And when the doors open at the corridor, you're looking down that hallway, and you can see that it branches off. And we tell people, in all honesty, that you're going to feel, whatever age you were when you first fell in love with Star Trek. Even
Yeah.
for a split second, you might remember where you were, who you were with, what episodes you were watching. But it's like walking into a television, is what it's really like. It's like walking into a television. And we get people who cry, we get people who ooh and ah. It's just the reactions that we get, because you think about it. I took some of these sets. In fact, Dan Scanlon is behind the camera, and he's been showing you some of the bridge sets. And we've taken a lot of these bridge sets with a backdrop to some Florida conventions. And I will tell you guys that I've been a Star Trek fan since 1966. And I've been to conventions and I've met actors and I've done all of that. You kind of forget that there's lots and lots and lots of people who never had that experience.
Right.
And realized that when I took it on the road to one of the local shows, and people, the reactions were, they never thought they'd ever see anything like this in their lifetime, that they would never be able to see these sets, or sit in the captain's chair, or sit at the helm, or take a picture and bring it home with them. And it gets kind of humbling. Sometimes it even gets a little embarrassing. I don't know if that's the right way to express it, but it's great to have that feedback. But when people hug you and people thank you, and it's just it does get sometimes a little bit. It's very humbling, which is what I said. It's just very humbling.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, because for some people, I mean, I know we have, green screen and Photoshop, but there's nothing quite like having, the physical touch of Sulu Station, or sitting in the full embrace of a captain's chair. I mean, I know when we went to TopCon, I I know that like so many people sat in the chair and they were kind of reckless with it, and Scott and I kept, we kept trying to save it as much as we could, but that chair busts out, and it's not the most comfortable chair, already. Some people don't know that. They think, oh, this must be the greatest chair in the world. I'm like, it's not that comfortable. Um, but for some people, like this is their first real chance to sit in the physical, environment, and mo- they don't get that, to actually sit in that captain's chair. There, it may not be comfortable, but there's nothing quite like it, because you got the full, like, you feel powerful when you're sitting there. And that's a great feeling to have. The closest I can give is when I went to Starbase Studios for the first time, and was fully encapsulated in that bridge. I got goosebumps, and I was not a TOS fan. I hated the original series, because what 8-year-old kid loves their kid, their parents of Star Trek? I was more of a next gen fan, but this turned me into a fan, because I was like, this is very cool. And I started falling in love with the technical aspect. And you helped recreate that with the corridor, going down that. I was like, man, if I had the room, and I'm sure you get that a lot too. Oh man, if only I had the room. Um, it's great, man, what you guys have there, for, and are able to do for people. But more for that. Um, what exactly are these open houses you guys are doing? Because you said you were gonna
So,
go in.
yeah. So once a month, we open up the doors for people.
Mhm.
We don't charge people to come in. We certainly would appreciate donations if people like what they see, but we don't charge people to come in. Right now, we're doing Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Today being the third day of our March event. We call it FAW, FAW, Fan Appreciation Weekend. Somebody dubbed it FAW. Um, and we've done a bunch of these. We were down for 9 months because of COVID, as
Right.
was most places. So we reopened in January, and we put together sort of a new um, system of visits. So people would have to log on, and we try to get groups of 15 for social distancing and all of that. Um, so we try to get groups of 15 to come at a time, and we do 90-minute walkthroughs. Vic Mignogna, as I think I mentioned, does the walkthroughs, and he and a number of people, Dan, Will Weaver, Sam Rooks, Alan Anderson, we're all here, and they're very well versed in everything. And we give people in that walkthrough not only the backstory of the studio, how is it constructed, why is it like this, how did we get here, all of that good stuff, but background that encapsulates Star Trek Continues, because that was a big part. That was the thrust of what they did for that series, but also bring in elements of the original series. This is this way because. How did they come up with beaming down? Beaming down became a thing because it cost too much money to try to figure out how to land the ship every week or whatever it was going to be. How do you get
Mhm.
people to another planet? What do those planets look like? So to save money, they said, what if we could come up with a device that just takes you from here to there in seconds? And then we're just still in the story. So there's a lot of I heard a lot of interesting things yesterday from a gentleman named Dave Arlen, who was also instrumental in putting the studio together. And he had some really interesting, I'm going to try to think of some, but he had some really interesting uh, information about how they did the original series. Dan, if you can point down for a second at my feet. So you'll see that the chair rotates, right?
Mhm.
And there's a little round, we've got a round uh, topper up there that it rotates on. In the
Mhm.
original series in the 60s, you're going to get ready for this. That was a bass drum. And inside the bass drum was a smaller drum so that the chair could swivel. I found out things like that yesterday, which I had absolutely no idea whatsoever.
Mhm. Hmm. And these are all the things that you're telling the people during the open houses, like informing them like the history of the Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And how did we recreate the transporter pads? Right, the
Mm-hmm.
transporter pads were originally, is it
Fresnel.
Fresnel lenses. If you think about the 1960s, cameras were huge, lenses were huge, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them at Paramount. And
Mm-hmm.
they came up with the idea of making those pods or those pads using Fresnel lenses. And Vic knew of someone in California that had one of those lenses, because you can't find hundreds of them anymore, and certainly if you find one, they're just too expensive to buy.
Right.
So he borrowed one. He made a cast or a mold out of that lens, and then made resin casts, and those became the transporter pods.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things to see. We try to keep people engaged. We do the walkthrough. Takes about an hour or so of the 90-minute event for people, and then we give them a half an hour to take it all in, walk back, take pictures, whatever they want to do. And again, no charge for coming, because we think this is something that Star Trek fans would want to see. And we want as many people to come through here as possible, because they deserve it, right? Star Trek's supposed to be about inclusion, and we want to include as many people as possible. And there are other locations, and it's taken me a while to understand where I am and the sets are in the scheme of things. There's a museum, but they don't film at the museum. There's Warp 66, which is a great version of it, and a lot of people film there for a lot of different reasons. I know you do, Vance. And sometimes you get a little bit jealous looking at pictures on Facebook and saying, "Oh man, that looks so cool," and then you stop and think, "Okay, well, mine looks as cool," you know.
Well, and that's the thing with having so many different places to go. It's, hey Royce, having so many different places to go. You being down in Georgia, it opens up, for the people who can't, who are, aren't quite, can't make it that far, or for like Warp 66 who can't make it down to Georgia, you know, um, instead of there being like just like one location, it's like it's good that there's a couple that are spread out, because for, like I said, for some people, all they have is that green screen, and you guys are providing, that, service for, hey, come film with us, we like to have you. I know Randy Landers, he has a, he has sets, they're not, like your guys' sets, but they're made from the heart, and that's the thing that I'm taken aback by what you guys have all done, is you guys have created something and continued something that was made from the heart, because you guys, Neutral Zone Studios used to be Farragut Studios, I think.
Starship Farragut.
Yeah, they. If I have a history. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's now the Neutral Zone. It's gone through several iterations. So it originally started down the road from where we are in Kingsland, in a town called St. Mary's. And it was in a much smaller facility. I think I heard today that they had a 3,000 square foot facility, and they had a good part of the bridge, and they had a captain's quarters, and they had a smaller version of the transporter, a little bit of a corridor. I think they might have had one or two other things that they used. They had the shuttlecraft there as well, and they filmed one episode there, and the building owner sold the building. Those guys were there sort of gratis. But they filmed one episode of Starship Farragut. And Vic had worked on that production, and Vic was a Star Trek fan as a kid, as well as many of us were. And he came up. They were going to put the sets in storage, and Vic said, "Hey, look, if we could find a larger facility, what do you think about moving your stuff in here, and then maybe trying to build it out?" And Vic's goal was to film one film, and he sort of got buy-in from fans when they saw it. The first film he did was called Pilgrim of Eternity, and it was the return of Apollo from Who Mourns for Adonis. The actor's name was Michael Forrest. So he managed to get Michael Forrest to recreate that role, and they filmed it and they released it, and that turned into an 11-episode adventure. And the episode, by the way, the episodes are online. They're all free to watch. Nobody makes any money from what we're doing. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Nobody makes any money. But they're online. And what he ended up doing was making the last 2 years of the 5-year mission, right? Trek was canceled after 3. He made the last 2 years, and he takes you up to Star Trek the Motion Picture in those crazy gray and white uniforms and light blues that they wore.
I was about to say, isn't like one of the last shots of Star Trek Continues, like he's in the motion picture uniform on the bridge, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't that like one of the last shots?
It's the very last shot. The bridge is kind of smoky. It's been through a battle. It's got wires hanging down, and it's his last hurrah on the Enterprise, on that version of the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the that's the thing that seeing Kirk, even if it's not William Shatner, seeing Kirk in the motion picture on that bridge, like it was very surreal. So like seeing that moment, going, that's weird. Like that's very cool, just because it's something you don't see every day, And again, that's one of those things that fan films have done, is they've been able to fill in a lot of the gaps that the books used to cover, and I don't feel like the books really do so much now of filling in gaps. I feel like it seemed like when I was a kid, like there was just like books, here you go, here, this fills in this gap, this fills in this gap. Now it doesn't seem like the books really do that as much. I feel like the fan films do that more. Maybe it's just my impression. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some people who would probably, hang me for saying that, but I really feel like the fan films give, puts kind of the power back to the fans, to do some of this stuff. Because, the fans have a hell of an imagination.
Because obviously I've been there a long time. I hate to admit it. I'm not going to tell your fans and your followers how old I am, but I've been there for a long time. And I think there was a time when books did fill in the gaps, because there was no way to do that other than reading it. There was just no way to know what happened in the particular time frame inside of events that we had seen in any of the series. And really, most of it was either TOS or Next Gen. And I think with the advent of fan films, which has been around a lot longer than I had realized, and still some of them are just being released today. The one with George Takei is just finishing, I believe, edit. But I think you're right. I think fan films have made us believe that, we can fill in the gaps, and it's kind of cool. And we can be in those universes, and we can do all that stuff. Sometimes you want to be off ship. You want to show some adventure. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it allows you, like I said, I know we have, for those that can't make it to the sets, we have the green screen stuff at home. We have, for a lot of people, we have like, clear outdoors. You can go have an away mission or a landing party. It's like, and we have cell phones that can upload directly to YouTube. Like we have so much at our fingertips that we can make those films and we can fill those gaps. We don't have to sit there and, read the books, although it's good if that's your out. But there's that other outlet that this fills in the gaps for, and to me, I feel like it brings, it brings some of the fans together, not a huge deal, because I know it's kind of uh, an acquired taste, fan films are, because some of the fan films are a little lower budgeted than others, and the internet will tell you, trust me, they let me know when they're like, I see a sneaker there, Starfleet doesn't wear white socks, I'm like, fuck off, um, but the thing that I love that you guys do, that you Warp 66, people like Randy Landers or Jose, you guys have you guys have a sets that, like I said, invite people in to create their dream. And that's always been something that I've felt that was important, was, build that dream, build that future, go tell your story. Even if it's not our story, go tell your story. And that's something you guys have continued the traditions of. You guys have had one of your highlighted films, at least maybe I'm a little biased here. But you guys have Dreadnought Dominion that comes and shoots there quite often.
Dreadnought Dominion, I'm not even sure how many they've had, but Dreadnought's done probably a dozen fan films, and that even predates Star Trek Continues, if I understand correctly, that they were filming here. And I've become good friends with Gary Davis and John Sims and Randy Wren. And they just filmed here once in January and twice in February. And a lot of the guys that are standing behind me, Dan Scanlon, Alan Anderson, those guys have stayed with the studio beyond Dreadnought because they're fans. And they give of their time and they give of their service. And, without those guys and guys like Royal and Sam, this place couldn't exist. Or at least if this place existed, we might not have the facility to do these fan films. And it's very, very interesting. And, it's gone through some iterations since I took it over. But these guys have really stabilized the group of volunteers that work behind the scenes. We're also here with Eli Irwin, and Eli's been involved in fan films, including Dreadnought, and he's become a big part of the studio. So, we have a real great staff of people that support me and support the studio.
I don't know. I'd watch Dan and Eli, those two guys. I don't know, those a bunch of characters. I don't know, man. Much love, guys. Glad to see you guys are there. I'm glad you guys are safe. So you guys have done. I think you're right. It's been maybe about a dozen or so, and that's one of the beauty of Dreadnought Dominion is they've they've had so many where it's a good thing when you lose track of how many films a production has done. That's a sign of a good, thriving set of fan films, and people that are having a good time. So you yourself, when I first met you, it was at going back a couple of years. It was at the first Promenade.
I was thinking about it. I think it was 2014 Promenadicon.
Yep. Sounds about right. And now, if we're wrong, someone out there will let us know, I'm sure. I'm sure there's someone out there tracking this stuff, but it was, you were working on Starship Republic. Is that something that you guys are continuing doing, or is that something that is just left with what's online, or what's the future with that?
So there's two iterations that have been presented to me to bring Starship Republic back. One is sort of being headed by Jim Von Doltrin. Jim a long time. Jim played the captain in Starship Republic. He also played a captain in something we did here as a Tales from the Neutral Zone called Endosymbiosis. But he's putting together his version of what he'd like to see that longer version of Republic being. And the other one is actually being done by Sam Cockings because he believed in Republic. And that was one of his first, not the first, but one of his first entrances into VFX in fan films. Before that, it was done by Tobias Richter, was like the big thing. And when the fan film guidelines came out, Tobias said, I just don't want to be involved, because I was messaging back and forth with him. And so he's put together a version, and there's a plan to shoot one hopefully before the year is out. But right now that's kind of in the works, and that's probably something that not too many people know right now, but that is the answer to your question.
So we might be seeing kind of a multiverse version of you know, whatever, or whatever comes first, you know. So bottom line is, there is a future for Starship Republic.
That is correct. That's correct.
Good, because I you know, going back a couple of years with you, the Starship Republic was always kind of dear to my heart. I was like, what, you know, I've always been curious, like what's going on here. Like I'd love to see something, you know, whatever iteration you go down, like, you know that you got at least one like click from me coming. So, you know, whatever you got. So all that hard work it's going to be worth the one click from me. So that's so.
I know you're going to let me know what's wrong with it. So it's okay.
As long as you're not wearing those sneakers, because they belong in my film. Don't steal my shit, Ray. Don't.
I have a story for you. I have a story for you. So we just released, after about a year and a half, this new fan film called Endosymbiosis, right? Mm-hmm. And just in a phrase, it was my send up to the Twilight Zone. It ends like a Twilight Zone, and people didn't quite get it, but that's okay. But anyway, we finally looked at all the footage. I got myself an editor. We edited the whole thing, beginning to end. We finally had it. And then I had Sam working on effects. I had another fellow by the name of Adam Mullen working on music. And we put the whole thing together. And about a minute and a half in, Dan Scanlon, who does the audio, his head is in the lower left-hand corner. There's Dan. And it was like, how did we miss that?
I pointed it out, remember?
I know.
On the rough cut,
he found it on the rough cut. But we had all missed it. And I had to come up with some cockamamie way to blank them out. So if you ever watch Endo and you see the credits, look for some fuzzy line in the lower left-hand corner. That's where Dan was stationed.
Now you've done. Frank Parker says, "See, I told you he was trouble." That's that Dan. So that being said, you've done your own version of the Twilight Zone, or at least how many films do you have with Tales from the Neutral Zone?
So we have two.
Okay.
The first one was called The Looking Glass.
Right.
And that one actually won an award.
48-hour film.
Nope. It was a different one. Not Indie. I keep getting confused with Indiegogo, but it's Indie Boom.
Oh yeah.
Indie Boom, best sci-fi on Indie Boom. And then we did a second one called Endosymbiosis, which took forever. Story behind that too, but it took forever to release. And we had a third one that was almost in production that got shut down at the beginning of April last year because of COVID. And we have plans on bringing that one back at the end. But we do have two that we want to film before the summer. And they're short films. They're going to be very short films. So 15 minutes or less. I'll give you a preview. But I'm really trying not to. But you want to
talk about it so bad.
I do.
I'm all ears, Ray.
One is going to involve Matt Decker, and another one's going to involve Captain Scott. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, it definitely gives us a reason to tune back in and watch. I'll say that. So, what was your what was your inspiration for doing a Twilight Zone-esque type Star Trek show? Because I have to say, when I heard that was what the approach was to this series, I was intrigued because it's one of those things where I feel as if everybody these days they want their own version of, they want their own, I'm the next Captain Kirk, and I've got my Vulcan science officer, and I've got my grumpy doctor, and to me, I'm like, nah, fuck that. That's it's been done before, and it's been done better. Just go be you. Go do something different, even if it's not the most successful. Just go be different. And when I heard this, I was like, that's different. So what was your inspiration for doing something like that? Because I think that's kind of clever.
I'm going to take you back in time, Vance, to the time when the fan film guidelines came out. Mm-hmm. And the guidelines said you only could do 15 minutes, or if you want, you can do 15 minutes, and you mm-hmm. kind of done it out, right? Mm-hmm. And if you recall, I had an hour or 45-minute version of Republic that I really wanted to film, and I was going to try to crowdfund it. Mm-hmm. And the guidelines came out, and no need to go to the backstory behind the whys and wheres. And I threw a hissy fit. I was like, I can't believe they're going to do this. I'm ready to go to film, blah, blah, blah. And then, better heads prevail. And you say, okay, at least they're still letting us do it. At least they're giving us some time. At least they're letting us crowdfund for it and all that good stuff. And I came to the conclusion, and this is the God's honest truth, I came to the conclusion that if the Twilight Zone could do a story in 30 minutes, then so could I. And it's always been in the back of my head. And I had this idea, and it could have concluded differently. But I said, you know what? I just want to give homage to the Twilight Zone. And even at the very end of the film, there's some Twilight Zone-y music as it starts to fade out. And that's really where that was born. It took a long time to get here, but that's where it was born.
Well, I think the one thing I know, when the guidelines first came out, like, everyone was losing their shit, and it wasn't just you, like, everyone was, the sky was falling, because nobody knew what was going on, and I think after
fan films were over. Fan films were over.
Yeah.
That's what people were saying.
Yeah, it was definitely, and we were all, headless chickens running around at that point, even me, I took down all my Star Trek stuff, because you know how I can get on Facebook and be fucking melodramatic and just, oh, woe is me,
Not you, man. Not you.
No, not me. No. Everyone at home is going, oh, the fat man's doing, what's he doing now, But it was one of those things where it's like it was very, for those of us who had our passions into doing stuff like this. Yes, son, I am laughing. Yeah, it's a very geeky laugh, huh? For those of us who have our hearts into making stuff like this, it kind of lets the air out of the balloon a little bit, but I mean, enough time has passed, and I don't think CBS really, I don't think they really nitpick us, especially stuff like me, where, again, like, I have, sneakers on my Starfleet officers, so they don't really pay that much attention. But
come to a conclusion about CBS, and I don't know if I could say I've worked with them over the years, but certainly they've been in touch with me if it was something they wanted me to change or fix or whatever. But they've kind of walked me through and allowed me to be here for several years. But I personally feel these days, this is my own opinion, but I personally feel that with the success of All Access, of Discovery and Picard, and now coming out with Strange New Worlds and Section 31, and there's even, whatever the cartoon is, and all of that. And with the merger of CBS with Paramount, bringing Paramount back into the fold, I think they've done what they set out to do, and they've kind of turned a blind eye. I'm sure this is going to get me in trouble with CBS. but I think they've kind of turned a blind eye to people like us, right? Because
No,
we're not a threat. We're not imposing on their IP. I just feel that they're like, okay, let these guys do their thing. If they follow the guidelines, that's all we're asking. If they don't, well, okay, then we've got to deal with it. But I
no,
really they've allowed us to sort of, even within the restrictions of the guidelines, they've allowed us to come back and offer these different fan films and venues.
no, Ray, I don't think you're going to be in trouble at all. Because one, like nobody really watches my stuff, so I think you're safe. But no, seriously, like it's to me, um, I always felt that it was the intent of the law. It was never the letter of the law. I felt as if your heart was in the right place. They would look at something and go, you know what? Okay, we're going to let that pass. They don't. They're not. Their intention is not. Their intention is noble. So they'll let you pass. And I think for at least for me, I now have over 100 fan films made, and I think we can safely say that I'm making a series. I mean they're connected. I think we can safely say they're connected. Um, and they've never touched anyone like me, and it's because it's like there's no one's ever going to mistake me for Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard, and if they do, something's wrong with that person, and I'm very flattered. But I really do feel like it's the intent behind what your motivations are, and I've known you for a long time. We've had our ups and downs, but your intentions have always been noble. You're just a good person, and you've never been the type of person to be like, "Wahaha, what's in it for me, CBS?" You've never been like that. You certainly wouldn't be doing stuff like the open houses, saying, "Hey, let me turn on my electricity, waste my money. Come on down here. You don't got to pay nothing." People like that, they don't exist if they don't have a good heart. You know, people like you are kind of rare. Um, you know, uh,
You're embarrassing me. It's a good thing you can't see me blushing on screen.
well, it's a red alert flash in the background. That's what it is. That's what it is. Um, but you guys down there, you offer something. Not a lot of people know. You helped me get, without going into detail, you helped me get down there when I otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And that's something that nobody can take that from you. I'll always be thankful for that, because I remember at the time I had said, man, I'm the only engineer in Starfleet who never goes to engineering, because I felt like I ripped off that line from Star Trek Generations, when they're talking about Geordi. He went to the doctor's office, went to the bath, took a bath, never actually went to engineering. And that's how I felt with Menard. And you were very inviting, and I actually got to go see engineering, and share the scene with Randy in their Dreadnought Dominion film. To me,
If you got them.
smoke them if you got them. To me, it's I never would have thought, for a guy who's done everything in fucking fan films, that was something that I never thought I'd get to do, and you helped make that possible. I could never imagine anybody going after you for, oh, you push this one rule in this one section of this one, to me, it's like that destroys what the heart of fan films are about. That destroys what the fans are about. And all you guys are doing there is good stuff. It's good intentions. You're letting people who want to come see the sets see them. You're letting people who want to build their dreams build. It's just a good positive environment. A cheap plug for anyone who hasn't visited the sets: please go see them. Feel free to donate to Ray if you have the money. To the studio. I'm sure they can use it, especially during the COVID time. I know it's hit us all pretty hard, but when we were working at the old Starbase, You know, it costs money to turn the lights on. So just them turning on the lights right now, it costs. So if you do make the trip, you know, he hasn't told me to say this, and I'm not telling you to do it, but just look in your heart and you know, just ask yourself, like, what would it take to keep these on, and what do you have to give? You know, because he's helping make dreams come true, not only for fan films and people that do those things, but you know, for you guys who get to go there. So help them out if you can. I know they have a Patreon. They've got stuff there. If you can help out that way, you know, look it up. They got a website. You know, check out that stuff there. Reach out on Facebook. Ask what you can do to lend a hand, because I'm sure there's plenty of productions that can use just an extra set of hands. I know doing fan films, you know, I can always use a set of hands, you know, so I'm sure they can too. Like, just ask what you can do to be involved. A helping hand goes a long way. So, you know, talk to Ray, see what you can do. He's got plenty of good people. I know Ashley's one of them. Eli's one of them. Don't trust Dan. So anyway, there's my cheap plug. But it's all true. Everything is on the up and up with Ray. You know, please help out if you can.
Well,
You can only.
I can't thank you enough for that, Vance. Yeah, there's expenses that go with the studio. They're not terribly expensive, but they're expensive enough, because there's not only in terms of lights, but we have to pay rent. You know, COVID took a big bite out of everybody, but we still had to move forward. And I know that, trust me, I know that money is tight for people. Certainly travel, people haven't really begun to travel again, you know, to sort of go anywhere. But, you know, at some point, hopefully you guys can travel and come see us. And we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for background extras. If you guys are either local or can get here through, you know, some good means. And we started refilming fan films again. We've done 4, I think, in the last 3 months. We've got 2 coming, actually 3 coming, and now I think about it, actually 4 coming before the end of May, and at least 2 planned after the summer. So first, again, thank you, Vance, because you know, I really appreciate not only what you're saying, but the fact that, you know, you would think that highly of us. But we are about inclusion, and we want to get as many people to come through here as possible, because we think you guys really not only deserve to see it, but as Vance talked about when he first showed up here, and he did his walkthrough, it's just like walking into a TV. And we welcome anybody that wants to be here.
Well, on that note, you guys have a thing today. You said this is the last day of your third.
This is our 3rd day of Fan Appreciation Weekend. Actually, we do start at noon, but we're probably getting close. I haven't looked, and we're not even at 11:30 yet. But I don't want to take up all of your time. I know it's the morning. I know you get about 3 minutes of sleep a day.
That's about it. But when is your next one? So what is it? Is this March? Yeah, we're in March, right?
April,
okay.
I believe, is April 16, 17, and 18. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if those dates are correct. And we're going to decide today on dates. I am correct about April. Everybody's shaking their head. They look like they're sitting in the back seat of a car. And we're going to decide probably today on dates for May, before it gets brutally hot down here by the end of May.
And what time should they
before the summer?
And what time should they be there in April? On the 6th, you said 16th, 17th, and 18th?
18th. So Fridays we just do afternoon because most people locally are working. So Friday usually opens up about 3 or 3:30. Saturday is 9 to, it ends at 6. So the last one is probably at 4:30. And they're all 90-minute sessions, if you will, or 90-minute walkthroughs. And then Sunday is noon. And I think the last one is at 3 on Sunday. And that's because Sundays, you know, lots of people are busy on Sundays. They go to mass on Sundays. Fridays, like I said, people are working. So Saturday's our big day. But if I may, the best thing for your guys to do is go to our website, which is just neutralzonestudios.com. And there's a link to our calendar. And the calendar has links to sign-up pages. And you guys can sign up and reserve a spot. And again, it costs you guys nothing. We just want you to somehow get here if you can and come visit us and say hello.
And the best way, if you're looking to do a fan film, is that available to do now, or is that something you're waiting until COVID's completely in the clear? Or
no, we've had people through here over the last couple of months. Somebody who came here in January is doing a fan film in May. There are no restrictions in doing it here. The only concern is, and I'd be perfectly honest, is temperature, because this building doesn't have air conditioning, and it gets brutally hot in the summer. So that's kind of the restriction. I think and Vance knows that I've had to go through iterations of trying to figure out what's fair in terms of rental charges and things like that. I think we've come up with something very manageable to the Star Trek community. People seem to be jumping on board. We had 2 different groups this weekend talk about filming here. So if you go to the website, you'll see a bunch of links across the top, and one says fan films. And there's a whole list of, you know, what you can do, you know, it talks about the guidelines, the CBS guidelines. And it really says, here's what you need to know. Are you bringing people other than maybe your cast? Do you need behind the scenes people? Are you bringing your own crew? And we're very flexible. We're really very flexible.
So one last question before we go. And this has been on my mind for years. Has anyone ever asked to do a porn parody on your bridge? Because that would be the weirdest fan film to shoot.
So somebody has.
Oh my God!
We decided not to do it. Before I came on board, somebody came out here and did a photo shoot, which I have never seen. I've been searching for years. Dan raised his hand. I think he's got the link.
No.
Oh, okay. So that hasn't been done. And I don't want you to think that I never thought about it either, but it's just not. There's enough of them out there.
Wait, you know, starring or?
Well, I came up with one. I hate to say it, but I did. I even wrote it, but it will never see the light of day. But I can go out there and I can see Charlie XXX, and I can find all those, you know.
I want this script, Ray. I am going to visit you just for this. It's going to be the hunt for the Portland Parody script. I love this. Oh my God, Ray. Well, on that note, I will let you go because I think our audience are done stabbing their eyes out now. So you. So on that note,
just before you go, we've been talking about fan films. We've been talking about the fan weekends. We've hosted weddings here. We've had parties here. We had a video shoot here, a rock band, a punk rock band shoot here. So even if you guys don't want to make a fan film, if you want to make like a 5-minute home video, you want to get married here on the bridge. We had a Christmas party. They put a tree up by the turbo lift and went to staff. And we have 2 ministers on staff. So, you know, we're open. Vance, within reason, we're open to anything.
I am both proud and ashamed that you felt the need to put that. Vance, look, within reason. That's Scott Johnson says Ray in a banana hammock. Dude, I'm in. I will donate for that one. That's gonna be a hashtag one of these days, Ray. You know that.
It might be a hashtag, but that's all it's going to be.
Damn it! That's the only reason people tune into my show. Damn it, Ray! I made empty promises. That's
listen,
it's crazy.
Somebody could put that together because that's why God invented Google and Photoshop.
Don't get me started on that, man. I have friends. It's so on that note. Oh, you got Catboy helmet on, huh? You want to show everybody at home? Show them your cool helmet. Oh, look.
Is that Royce? How's
That's
he doing?
Royce.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. Say hi, Royce.
Hi.
Say hi, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Look at his spaceship. The spaceship's pretty
Hi,
cool,
Royce.
huh?
That's your cool spaceship. Is that your spaceship?
No, that's not my spaceship. That's Ray's spaceship.
Ray's spaceship? Whoa, that's very cool.
That's very cool,
If
huh?
he wants to take over my ship, we can talk about it.
Who's that blue guy?
He says if you want to come to his ship, we'll talk about it. You want to go to his ship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can land on the road and then I'll say hi.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll show him my favorite cowboy helmet. It got ears and they squeeze.
Okay. You gonna squeeze your ears, huh?
Yeah, and then it goes down on my face.
Yeah.
It goes down on my eyes.
Okay. All right. Bye, Royce.
Bye.
What a cute little man. What a cute little man.
Yeah, he's a handful. We played yesterday. We played soccer. We played baseball. And I'll tell you, I felt every pound of cellulite I have on my body, my friend. It's every pizza I packed away. Oh my God. And he was just like, let's go, let's kick, let's play. And I'm like, I just want to stand here and yeah, bless his heart, to be that young again, huh, Ray?
Yeah, I don't think about that again either. But I want to be that guy that was stuck in the transporter and what was it? I can't remember the name of it, but they all turned into kids.
There you go, man. That's what we need to do next. So, all right, my friend. Well, on that note, we're almost at the hour mark, so I will let you go. But Ray, I want to say personally, for what you've done for me before, personally, thank you. I seen the engineering set. It was one of the highlights of making fan films. Just being immersed in that environment was very cool. And when I talk about visiting sets, I always bring that up. I bring up my experience of visiting the bridge the first time, and then I bring up the engineering set because it's one of those things like you just can't replicate that feeling. And I want to say, my friendship with you. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and when I got off the phone, it was like an hour later, and I was still just like, on cloud nine, man. I love you to death, bro. What you do, just out of the kindness of your heart, keep doing it because good things are going to happen. And you may never see the full effect of what you do for other people, but it's there and it impacts them. Like you doing what you did for me. We have the pictures of Royce and I walking down that corridor. You may never see the effect of that, but Royce has those pictures in his room. That's going to impact him. You may never see that, but you're impacting lives that you don't even know. All of you guys that are working there are doing that. You guys are keeping that. Just keep doing it because it's living the dream. And all of you at home, help Ray and help that studio, however you can, because they're doing it even on the hardest day. They keep going, and there are some hard days, especially with COVID, the stress of just running a studio in general. We all have those hard days. Help them if you can. You know, and if you can't, you know, money wise, that's okay. Help them with your time. Help them with just, hey, appreciate what you do. A kind word goes a long way, especially today, because it's easy to get discouraged. So anything you can do to help these people, please do. So, but
if I could just jump in, Vance, because I know we're gonna end in a minute or so.
Sure.
One thing is that what you could really help do for us guys is spread the word. We are the best kept secret of Kingsland, Georgia, and if you guys could somehow spread the word and like and share. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We're all over the place.
And soon, and in the next few weeks, we'll be on TikTok.
Oh boy, can't wait for that. That's where that porn is going to show up.
I'm going there. You got it, Ray.
Yeah, but just to add to what you were saying, first of all, really thank you so much for your kind words and your support. I too, a couple of weeks ago after we spoke, came away feeling really good about that. And yes, we have had our ups and downs, but I've always considered you my friend. You were the guy who got me started. You welcomed me into Promenadicon and Starbase. And, you know, you were the guy that sort of pushed me along to get that done. And I'm never going to forget that. There's things that you won't forget, and there's things I won't forget. And that's not something that I'll forget. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me here and letting me play Star Trek with you. And, you know, hopefully we'll do this again soon and maybe even in real time.
Well, I'll play with you anytime, Ray. And now I just realized that sounds a lot like that porn movie that they were. Damn it!
I was going to say, I hope you're talking about Star Trek.
Well, with that in mind, I will let you go, my friend. Good luck today. Have fun, and everybody at home, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.